90%. I mean, just let that number sink in for a second. 90%.
It's a massive number. It's honestly terrifying.
It really is. According to the absolute latest onboarding data, 90% of your users will churn if they do not understand your software's core value within their very first week.
First week. Sometimes even the first day, really.
Right. So you spend, massive amounts of engineering resources, marketing budget, sales capital, just to get a user to your front door.
Yeah.
They walk inside, they look around your interface for a few days, and then literally 9 out of 10 of them just walk right back out.
And they never return.
Exactly. Welcome to episode 15 of Data Designed with Mockup. Today is April 16th, 2026, and in today's deep dive, we are tackling this massive retention crisis head on.
We have to, because it's breaking companies.
Totally. We're exploring the architectural mechanics of optimizing SaaS onboarding funnels using data-driven KPIs. Specifically, we are going to look at how dashboard wireframing tools like markup.ai act as the crucial blueprint to bring all this tracking data to life.
Yeah, that 90% churn metric is brutal. But, when you actually analyze the telemetry of failing SaaS products, the mechanical breakdown behind that drop-off is glaringly obvious.
Like it's a recurring pattern.
Oh, absolutely. It almost always stems from a complete lack of metric constraint. Development teams build these really complex applications, and then they just rely on gut feeling. Or, even worse, they track absolutely everything without a cohesive visualization strategy.
Just a fire hose of data.
Right. They just assume a user understands the intended workflow. But in software design, assumption is the enemy of retention. You have to measure, and, more importantly, you have to measure the right things.
Which is exactly what this deep dive is about.
Exactly. Today, we are breaking down the entire telemetry pipeline. From the raw metrics you need, to the wireframing process that prevents data swamps, right through to the specific analytics stack you need to build a conversion-ready experience.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start right at the foundation of that pipeline, which is defining what a successful first week actually looks like mathematically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Getting away from feelings and into math.
Right, moving from the abstract nightmare of user churn to two highly specific trackable goals: activation and value.
And the defining metric here is time to first value, TTFE.
Exactly, TTFE. In a purely technical sense, this is the timestamp delta between a user's account creation and the exact moment they trigger the core aha event in your database.
Like an invite-sent Boolean flipping to true.
Yeah, or, an API-generated event. The architectural rule here is absolute. A shorter TTFE strongly correlates with lower churn. I mean, think about it like going to a new restaurant.
Okay, like this.
If it takes 45 minutes just to get a menu, you are mentally checking out before you ever even taste the food.
You're probably looking up other restaurants on your phone while you sit there.
Exactly. How do we ensure users taste the food immediately? Or, to use a more technical example, think about booting up a new integrated development environment, an IDE.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic friction point.
Right. If a developer has to configure 40 environment variables, install 3 separate package managers, and then manually path their compiler before they can even print Hello World to the console.
They're gone. They are uninstalling and finding a simpler tool.
100%. They aren't going to stick around.
That IDE analogy actually strikes right at the core of the problem because it highlights the cognitive and technical load that we place on a new user.
Every extra step is a barrier.
Exactly. Every additional configuration screen, every mandatory but non-essential form field, it adds drag to your time to first value.
Yeah.
If a user is fighting your architecture just to prove your product does what you promised it does, they will abandon the session, which directly informs our second foundational metric, which is activation rate.
And we should clarify, this isn't just daily active users, right?
No, not at all. DAU is too broad.
Yeah.
Activation rate is the strict percentage of users who fire that specific milestone event, signaling they have extracted tangible value.
Like actually running the campaign, not just logging in.
Exactly. A high activation rate proves that your core utility isn't just theoretically present, but that it's functionally accessible.
Right. So we really need to separate vanity metrics from core metrics. Like a user successfully authenticating and logging in, that's a vanity metric in this context. Logging in does not mean they are activated.
Precisely. Authentication is just unlocking the door to the building.
Okay, like that.
Activation is them actually walking in and using the equipment inside.
Right.
To drive down that time to first value, your engineering focus has to be on ruthless reduction.
What does that look like in practice?
It means you automate initial configurations in the background. You leverage OAuth to pull in profile data rather than making them type it out. You use logic branching to skip structural setups that just aren't relevant to their specific use case.
You have to mathematically prove your software's worth before their session attention span expires.
Yeah, which is very short these days.
Which brings us to a really critical crossroad in the product development lifecycle. Once a team defines their TTFE and their activation events, they have to figure out how to actually monitor them.
And this is where things usually break down.
Yes. And this is actually where I need to introduce some genuine friction into our discussion. The standard best practice and a core focus for us today dictates that before you write any tracking code, you must wireframe your analytics dashboard.
100%.
And this is where a tool like mockup.ai becomes fundamental. You use its pre-built KPI templates, drag-and-drop elements, and you visually map out the onboarding funnel first.
Right, using AI-powered generation to get a baseline before any development starts.
Exactly. Like using Mockup's SaaS lead generation dashboard to align marketing acquisition with those early product journeys. And here's where I'm going to push back.
Let's hear it.
As a product lead, if my engineering team has already implemented a customer data platform, say Segment, I can just pipe all that raw event data directly into a BI tool and build visualizations on the fly. Why introduce a middle step?
I hear this all the time.
Right. Why mandate dashboard wireframing in mockup.ai before we even look at the live data? It feels like we are deliberately slowing down an agile development process.
It's a super common objection. But piping raw event data directly into a visualization tool without a wireframe is exactly how engineering teams accidentally build data swamps.
Data swamps. Okay, tell me more about that.
If you just open the floodgates from your CDP, it is incredibly easy to track every single click, hover, DOM change, and scroll.
You capture literally everything.
Everything. But when your product managers and your stakeholders open that dynamic dashboard, they are instantly paralyzed by noise. It is pure cognitive overload.
Because there's no hierarchy.
Exactly. By forcing the team to wireframe the dashboard in mockup.ai first, you are engineering a constraint. You sit down with the drag-and-drop interface, and the physical limitations of the screen force a vital conversation.
Like what actually matters here?
Yes. You have to say, look, we only have cognitive real estate for 5 to 7 core KPIs. What are the absolute most important metrics?
So the wireframe acts as a filter. You're building the exact lens through which you'll view the user behavior, rather than just staring at a database dump.
Exactly. It creates a strict data contract between product and engineering.
Oh, a data contract. I love that phrasing.
It really is. If the mockup.ai wireframe only displays a funnel for account created, first integration synced, and first campaign launched, then the engineering team knows exactly which specific event taxonomies need to be flawlessly instrumented.
Right, they aren't guessing.
Exactly. It prevents developers from wasting sprint cycles, tagging 100 minor UI elements that no one will ever actually analyze. Wireframing ensures everyone agrees on the user intent and the expected friction points before a single line of tracking code is deployed.
That structural discipline makes perfect sense. The mock-up wireframe is essentially the blueprint for the house.
You wouldn't build a house without a blueprint, right?
You really shouldn't. Now let's talk about the specific materials we use to build that tracking infrastructure, because the dashboard is only as good as the data feeding it. We need specific friction-indicating KPIs.
And there are 2 critical ones that stand out for onboarding.
Right. Onboarding completion rate and the customer effort score, or CES.
Yes.
Onboarding completion rate is fairly straightforward. It's basically identifying the exact step in your progressive tutorial where the Boolean logic fails to complete.
Right, identifying the drop-offs.
Yeah. If they hit step 2, but the event for step 3 never fires, boom, you have a bottleneck. But customer effort score is fascinating to me because it's qualitative.
It brings the human element back in.
Exactly. It's typically gathered via a microsurvey right in the app.
Yeah.
You're asking the user, mathematically, how difficult that specific setup task felt on a scale of 1 to 5.
In effectively capturing both of those,
Right.
the quantitative completion rate and the qualitative CES requires a highly orchestrated analytics stack. The optimization step here is what we call instrumenting analytics, and consistency is paramount.
What happens if it's not consistent?
Well, if your iOS application defines a sign-up event differently than your web application's taxonomy, your wireframed dashboard becomes completely useless because the data is corrupted right at the source.
It's just garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Let's break down that modern tool stack because you actually need different engines for different types of data.
Right. You can't just rely on one tool for everything.
Exactly. You have Google Analytics 4, GA4, which handles the broader traffic flow. It shows you which marketing channels or geographic vectors are driving the traffic.
Hmm.
But GA4 isn't built for deep sequential product analytics.
No, it's not. For that, you really need an event-based engine like Mixpanel or Amplitude.
Yeah, Mixpanel and Amplitude are phenomenal for tracking the strict sequential logic of activation events.
They allow you to segment your users by highly specific behavioral cohorts, which is crucial. But even with Mixpanel giving you a perfect funnel visualization, it only gives you the quantitative reality.
It tells you what is happening.
Exactly. This is where you absolutely must layer in a qualitative tool like Hotjar. Hotjar provides the behavioral layer heat maps, erratic cursor tracking, and actual session playbacks.
Okay, I want to drill into this integration because balancing the hard numbers with the human experience is where teams either win or lose. Walk us through how a product manager actually uses Mixpanel and Hotjar together in a real-world scenario to solve a churn problem.
Okay, let's use a hypothetical API management platform as an example. The team looks at their mockup.ai dashboard, which is being fed by Mixpanel, and they see a massive red flag.
An alert goes off.
Right. They see an 80% drop-off at the generate API key stage. The onboarding completion rate has just completely plummeted.
Yikes.
Mixpanel provides the quantitative exactness. It says 8 out of 10 users hit the URL for the key generation page, but the key copied event never fires.
So that is your where. But, as we said, Mixpanel cannot tell you why.
Right. Mixpanel just sees the absence of an event. It doesn't know what the user is doing.
Exactly. So what does the product manager do?
So the product manager switches over to Hotjar. They filter the session recordings specifically for users who dropped off at that exact URL.
This is where it gets good.
When they watch the playback, they see the user's cursor moving to the API key. They see them click the copy to clipboard icon, and then nothing happens.
Oh, man. The dreaded broken button.
The user rage-clicks the icon 5 times, gets visibly frustrated, you can see the mouse thrashing, and closes the browser tab.
So painful to watch.
And simultaneously, the team cross-references the customer effort score data. A microsurvey triggered for users who lingered on that page longer than 60 seconds. The qualitative text response just reads, "Your copy button is broken on Safari."
Wow. That is the aha moment for the product team.
Precisely. The quantitative data told them exactly where to look. The qualitative data, the session recording, and the CES survey revealed the exact human frustration. It was a cross-browser JavaScript bug on a single button.
And it was causing 80% of users to churn.
Exactly. You cannot optimize an onboarding funnel using only aggregated numbers. You have to have the tooling to zoom in and witness the granular friction.
And once you witness that friction and you squash the bugs, you move into the optimization phase. Because knowing where the bottlenecks are is just the diagnostic step. The cure is the art of iteration and personalization.
Right. Fixing the broken stuff is step 1. But then you have to optimize.
Exactly. And as we fix that first-day experience, our focus on the dashboard extends further down the timeline. We start tracking feature adoption rate, like are they actually integrating your advanced webhooks, or just using the basic manual entry.
Moving beyond the surface level.
Yeah, and ultimately, we are looking at customer retention rate, or CRR, which measures sustained engagement past that critical 30-day window.
The ultimate indicator of success.
Right. To maximize CRR, the tactical mandates are clear. You deliver rapid value in the first session, you simplify forms to the absolute minimum required fields, and you deploy contextual guided tours. But the most powerful lever here is personalizing the onboarding flow itself.
Personalization is where standard SaaS products transition into true enterprise-grade experiences. A massive architectural mistake companies make is treating all incoming traffic as a monolith.
Like giving the exact same sales pitch to a casual window shopper that you'd give to a corporate buyer.
Exactly. They serve the exact same onboarding logic to a computer science student on a free trial as they do to a chief information security officer evaluating a 10,000-seat enterprise deployment.
It's completely illogical. The friction points for those two personas are entirely different. How does a team actually architect that segmentation technically?
It happens right at the data enrichment layer during the very first sign-up step. A user inputs their email address. In the background, via an API call to a service like Clearbit, the system analyzes the domain.
Okay, so it looks up the company.
Right. If the payload returns firmographic data indicating this is a Fortune 500 company, the front-end application dynamically branches the React flow.
Oh, wow. Seamlessly.
seamlessly. The enterprise user is immediately routed to SSO configuration, compliance documentation, and role-based access controls.
Because that's what they care about.
Exactly. But if the API returns a generic Gmail address, the application routes them to a self-serve, lightweight sandbox environment. Personalizing the flow based on persona dramatically increases the relevance of the TTFE.
And crucially, product teams don't always need to wait for a massive back-end engineering sprint to test these personalized flows.
No, not at all.
You can leverage platforms like UserPilot to design no-code, contextual walkthroughs, and checklists that just lay over the existing UI.
It empowers the product team to move fast.
Yeah. If the firmographic data flags a marketing persona, UserPilot triggers the specific tooltips for campaign management. And you validate these assumptions using Optimizely, running rigorous A/B tests on your flows. Flow A has 3 steps, Flow B has 5 steps, but more context.
And you just let the data crown the winner.
Exactly.
And as you run these A/B tests and your product's feature set grows, the data you need to track fundamentally shifts. Onboarding is not a static one-time deployment. It is a continuous loop of measurement and iteration.
Which brings us back to the wireframes.
Exactly why you maintain that dashboard wireframing discipline. As you introduce new enterprise flows or new core features, you go right back to mockup.ai. You rapidly iterate the visual layouts, testing different KPI combinations to ensure the new user pathways are actually being captured effectively.
That loop is vital for stakeholder alignment, too. Once the product team finalizes the new dashboard layout in mockup, they can confidently export those exact data structures into a heavy-duty BI tool like Power BI.
Right, for the executive view.
Yeah. This gives the C-suite and the investors a clean, professional view of the real-time CRR trending upwards. It basically abstracts the complexity of Mixpanel into a visual narrative that leadership can instantly digest.
Treating every iteration as a measurable experiment removes the ego from software design. You aren't arguing in a conference room about what a user might want. You are letting their actual behavioral data, visualized perfectly on your dashboard, dictate the architecture.
Which provides the perfect transition to the bleeding edge of this space. When we look at where data-driven onboarding is heading, it is moving rapidly toward automation and predictive analytics.
This is the really exciting stuff.
Right. We spent this entire deep dive talking about reacting to data. A user drops off, we analyze the funnel, we fix the button, but the future is entirely proactive.
The integration of mature AI models is fundamentally changing the telemetry landscape. We are moving away from static, pre-programmed logic branches to dynamic interfaces that adjust in real time based on live session analysis.
Wait, really? Like adjusting while the user is clicking around?
Yes. Imagine a machine learning model that ingests the exact velocity of a user's clicks, the erraticism of their cursor, and the time spent hesitating on a specific input field.
So it's basically calculating a real-time frustration threshold.
Exactly. It isn't just looking at historical churn data to tell you who left yesterday. It identifies a user currently in the product who is exhibiting the exact behavioral fingerprint of someone who is going to abandon their session in the next 5 minutes.
Oh, that's wild. And because the system calculates that probability in real time, it can intercept the DOM.
Yes, before they even leave.
Right. Before the user even searches for a help button, the UI can dynamically deploy an automated nudge or, overlay a highly personalized micro video explaining the exact field they are stuck on. It's literally a self-healing onboarding flow.
By embracing these predictive advancements, SaaS architecture will evolve from simply tracking users to actively retaining them through automated empathy.
Automated empathy. That is such a brilliant way to phrase it. To synthesize this entire deep dive, relying on instinct to welcome users is exactly how you arrive at a 90% churn rate.
It's a guaranteed failure path.
It really is. But if you mathematically define your time to first value, establish a strict data contract by wireframing your dashboard in mockup.ai, and weave together the quantitative power of Mixpanel with the qualitative insights of Hotjar, well, you can completely re-engineer your retention.
You take the guesswork out of it entirely.
Exactly. You strip away the friction, personalize the architecture based on the user's actual persona, and turn confused evaluators into long-term activated customers. I highly recommend diving into mockup.ai's wireframe templates to start constraining and visualizing your own data strategies before you write another line of tracking code.
It'll save you months of headaches.
Absolutely. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final specific architectural challenge based on that future of AI we just discussed. If you had a predictive model running on your software right now, and it perfectly flagged that a new high-value enterprise user was going to churn within their first 10 minutes, how would you completely redesign their very first screen tomorrow to prevent it?
That is the question every product team should be asking.
Indeed it is. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 15. Keep iterating, keep measuring the metrics that matter, and we will see you on the next deep dive.